All right, so in this lecture, we're going to look at another attribute of Odoo fields and another way you can use Odoo fields, and this is decorating certain functions with OnChange events. So there will be times where when something changes or you want to trigger something in Odoo, you may want to affect another field. And we're just going to use an example that's relatively simple by taking a meal here that if it has a total meal calorie in excess of, say, a certain value, we'll just use 500 as a default, we're going to call that a large meal. And so we're going to add a Boolean field to our model, which will just take a second. And then we're going to see how we can affect that field based upon calculations in other fields. So this is another example that you'll have all kinds of real world case scenarios where you'll need to know how to do this. And it's basically giving you a chance to learn how to create an OnChange event that allows you to maybe do a lot of other things within your application. In this one, we're going to do a simple calculation that's going to set our large meal to true. So let's get started. We go to our meal model, and it's right here. And we're just going to make a field called large meal, and we're going to make it Boolean and call it large meal. Very simple. So that we can feel comfortable doing. We know how to add fields to our model. So we now have a true false that's called large meal. Now we're going to see how we can affect this field based upon our total calories that's a calculated field itself. So calculated fields can be used just like any other field. And we're going to go here and say at API dot OnChange. And so this OnChange event is a decorator that will get fired whenever we say what it is that changes that we want to call this event. So I'm going to say total calories, just like that. And so what's going to happen is if as soon as this field changes, the value of it changes, it's going to call the function that we define here. So I'm going to call check total calories, just like that, and it'll automatically fill in self. And now let's just say if self.total calories is greater than, oops, I should have hit enter there. Say it's greater than 500, like we said. Then what we're going to do is we're going to tell this large meal field to be true. Otherwise, it's not a large meal. Now, it's a pretty simple example, and hopefully it makes sense to you by looking at it, but as you can imagine, there's lots of power in this, that we're able to create this decorator that would apply to any field in your models, and then specify a function or a method that will then run whatever code you wish when this changes. So when total calories changes, we're going to check it. And if it happens to be above 500, large meal is going to be true. Otherwise, large meal is going to be false. And just with that simple example, let's go now and to our view, and in our meal view down here, where we have our total calories, we're going to copy this and paste it and just put in large meal here and save. And now let's stop and restart. And if we go now to our meals and click on one of them, notice how it's not checked here because our data hasn't changed. Remember, it's an OnChange event. So let's edit here and say instead of 2 calories or 2 servings, 3, we had 2, and we hit save. Notice how our large meal got checked when our total calories got updated. So it's important to remember, it's very explicit that this OnChange fires when total calories changes. This is going to fire when it sees this OnChange of total calories, then it's going to do this calculation. So you have to take these kinds of things into account when you're developing. If you have data already in there, that data isn't going to fire off these OnChange events. You're going to have to fire them off. But it's important for you to understand how they work. So let's edit again, and let's delete off this line item. So now notice how as soon as I did that, it's already unchecked the large meal here in our header. And so if I do a loaded baked potato one, notice how it's already updated and checked this, and our calories are updated. So our OnChange events are firing. They fire in real time, and we can make them update other fields in our model. So with this video, we really want to recap everything that we've accomplished so far. You want to take time to practice adding your own models, making small changes to this application, because nothing will teach you better than repetition. And we've covered a lot of ground. You've learned how to add models, how to add views, how to add menus, how to change views, how to do inheritance, how to create related fields, how to create computed fields, and right now how to do OnChange events and other lots of complex topics. But if you practice, if you take what you've learned so far, these are the foundations for you to become a great Odoo developer and learn how to create applications in Odoo. It's not something that happens overnight, but as you can see, we've already been able to create a rather complex application that allows us to keep track of meals and total calories, and we've seen some dynamic functionality as well. So you should be real comfortable with this as a foundation. And in our next section, we're going to take a look at how we can take what we've learned here and make a report and learn a little bit about QWeb. And we're going to learn there how to take some of these things and apply them to a different way of viewing your data, which will be useful in creating PDF reports. Also is useful later in more advanced topics of creating web interfaces as well. And then just looking a little bit further ahead, a little bit further along, we'll also in that section do a little bit with importing data into Odoo. And so you'll learn a little bit more about Python scripting, a little bit more how you can create scripts to import data into Odoo rather than having to key it or use the CSV import, which is often not ideal when you're dealing with large data sets or when you have to modify or translate data when importing data into Odoo. So still more to go. Thanks for watching this lecture, and we'll see you in the next one.